Snow had begun to fall again, soft and steady, as the last train of the evening rolled out of Beloruskia station. Underneath the flickering lamplight, a bundled figure stirred on a wooden bench, pulling his coat tighter. His name was Andrei Mikhailov, and though the world around him had long forgotten who he used to be, Andrei remembered. He had not always lived this way, scraping together coins, searching for warmth, and watching others pass him by. Once, he had a home in Sokolniki, a warm kitchen filled with the scent of his mother's soup, the sound of classical music from an old radio, and laughter shared with his younger sister, Natalia. Now, passers-by barely offered a glance. A young woman hurried past, clutching her handbag. Andrei recognized the color of her scarf. It was the same pattern his sister once wore. For a moment, hope sparked. Was it her?
But no.
Natalia had not looked at him in years, not even when he passed by their old flat on Ulitsa Struminka. As the wind bit through his sleeves, Andrei lit a cigarette with trembling hands, shielding the flame from the cold. He glanced around at the others nearby, a drunk sleeping on a plastic bag, an old woman muttering to herself, and a teenager eating bread out of a paper wrapper. None of them spoke.
They rarely did. It was safer that way.
Earlier that afternoon, Andrei had tried again, gone to the community center off Tsvetnoy Boulevard, asked if they had space for the night. They had not. They rarely did. His name was no longer on the list, the woman behind the counter said. He had missed too many meetings. Too many chances. I'll try again tomorrow, he mumbled. You said that yesterday, Mikhailov, she replied, not unkindly. Walking back into the icy dark, he passed an advertisement on a bus shelter, a cheerful family huddled together under blankets in front of a roaring fireplace. The irony was cruel. He thought of Natalia again, of their father, Sergei, who had warned him years ago. If you bring shame into this house again, Andrei, do not come back. It wasn't shame, he wanted to explain. It was confusion, struggle. Something inside him had stopped working the way it used to. But he never found the right words. And now, perhaps, it was too late. That night, curled up on a bench beneath the underpass near Krasnopresenskaya, he heard footsteps. Someone was watching him. He sat up. A tall man in a long wool coat stood nearby, eyes scanning him curiously. You're Mikhailov, aren't you? Andrei stared. No one had called him that in years. I have a message for you, the man said, before placing a small folded paper on the bench. Without another word, he walked away. Andrei picked it up, hands shaking. He unfolded the note slowly. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Natalia's. The snow had grown thicker overnight, turning the city into a hushed sea of white. Andrei sat beneath the overpass, his eyes fixed on the letter in his hand, its edges damp with melted frost. The words blurred not from water, but from the sting in his eyes. He hadn't seen Natalia's handwriting since his mother's funeral 5 years earlier. The note was short, written with a firm but uncertain hand. You are not forgotten. There are things you do not know. If you want the truth, come to the bench by the old birch tree in Sokolniki Park. Midnight. He read it again and again, trying to decipher its tone. Was it a trap? A farewell? A hint of hope? The birch tree. He remembered it well. They used to play there as children, building snow forts and watching the world disappear behind branches dusted with frost. It was the last place he'd felt safe. But Sokolniki was far from where he was now, and his boots were worn through. Still, the idea of seeing her again, of answers, stirred something deep in his chest. Something dangerous. Something like hope. The day dragged slowly. He wandered the streets, collecting bottles for change, trading a few for a piece of bread and a bitter coffee. He tried to stay warm in the metro stations, but the security guards recognized him too quickly. No loitering. Not here. When the sky turned dark, he made his way east, each step through the snowy pavements sending aches through his bones. The city lights blurred around him, cars and buses rushing past like they belonged to a different life, one that had shut him out. He reached Sokolniki Park just before midnight. The park was almost empty, save for the crunch of snow beneath his steps and the occasional bark of a distant dog. The birch tree stood as tall and pale as he remembered, its bark like cracked porcelain. André sat down on the frozen bench, waiting. Heart pounding. Mind racing. What if she didn't come? What if she did? The wind picked up, and with it came the faint sound of footsteps. He turned. There she was. Natalia. She wore a long gray coat, her blonde hair pulled into a neat braid, a woolen scarf wrapped tightly around her neck. Her eyes searched the darkness until they found him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, she sat beside him. You came, she said softly. André nodded, unsure of his voice. I wasn't sure you'd read it. I wasn't sure it was really from you, he said at last. She looked down at her gloves, twisting them nervously. I didn't know where to find you. Then someone told me you sometimes sleep near Belarusia. He frowned.
Who told you that?
She hesitated. It doesn't matter. What matters is, I need to tell you something. Her breath came out in a cloud. Her voice trembled as she spoke. You think we turned you away because you were weak or lost. But that's not the full story. André's hands clenched. Then what is? She looked him dead in the eyes. Papa lied to both of us. There's something about that night. The night you left. You were blamed for something you didn't do. The wind howled through the trees. André stared at her. What are you talking about? Natalia stood. Come with me. I'll show you. André hesitated. His legs ached, his fingers were numb, and every instinct told him to stay where it was safe. But the chance to be seen, to be believed, it was too much to resist.
He rose slowly.
They walked deeper into the snow-covered park, the past creeping in behind every footstep. The frost crunched beneath their boots as they moved in silence through Sokolniki Park, their breath swirling into the night like smoke. The trees stood like tall sentinels, witnesses to 1,000 secrets. For the first time in years, André walked beside his sister, though the space between them still felt miles wide. He dared a glance at her. Natalia's face was pale, drawn, her eyes fixed ahead. She walked with purpose, but her shoulders were tense, as if she were carrying something heavier than the thick coat she wore. They emerged from the trees into a quiet residential street. André's heart clenched. He knew this place. The narrow pathway, the broken iron gate, the 3-story building with a faded green door. It was their childhood home. I can't go in there, he muttered, stepping back. Natalia turned to him. You have to. André shook his head. He said if I ever came back. He's not here, she said sharply. He's at his dacha, near Zvenigorod. He won't know. She pulled a key from her coat pocket, held it out to him. André stared at it, the memories thick and choking. The night he'd left, the shouting, the accusations, the slam of the door as it locked behind him. He took the key. The door creaked open after years of silence. Inside, the air was stale, laced with dust and something older, a scent of time sealed behind walls. The hallway was the same. Wallpaper peeling, a cracked mirror, the familiar groan of the wooden stairs. They walked together, past the living room where their mother once sang lullabies, up the stairs to their father's study. The room was dark, curtains drawn tight. Natalia stepped inside first. There's something you need to see. She knelt beside a cabinet and unlocked the lowest drawer. Pulling it open, she revealed a box. Inside, files, letters, photos. She handed one to André. It was a police report. His name was listed, and beside it, a statement from their father. André's hands trembled as he read. The report detailed a theft, bonds, apparently, from Sergei Mikhailov's office safe. The safe had been opened the night André was last home. André looked up, confusion and anger boiling together. You believed I stole from him. I didn't want to, Natalia whispered. But he made it sound so real. He said you were using, that you needed money. André backed away, the paper slipping from his fingers. I never touched a safe. I didn't even know the combination. I know, she said. I found out later. He filed that report to cover himself. He had debts, André. Gambling. Bad ones. He needed someone to blame. Andrei gripped the back of a chair for balance. All those years, he said quietly. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought maybe I had done something and just forgotten it. Natalia wiped at her eyes. I tried to confront him last year. He told me never to mention it again. That you were gone. That it was done. He sat down slowly, the weight of the lie pressing down on his chest. Why didn't you come find me? I didn't know where to look. And I was scared. But then last week, I saw you. At Pushkinskaya Metro. I couldn't believe it. Andrei said nothing. His fingers rubbed at the edge of the table, grounding himself in the room, in the truth. Natalia stood.
There's more, she said.
Letters. From Mum. Ones he never gave us. She handed him a bundle, tied with blue thread. Andrei untied it with care. The top letter began with his name. My dear Andrei. His mother had written to him. Again and again. And never once had he received them. He pressed the paper to his chest, eyes closed. I didn't imagine it, he whispered. She still loved me. Natalia sat beside him. We all did. We just didn't fight hard enough to show it. The house was silent. But for the first time in years, Andrei felt something other than cold. It was not warmth exactly, but it was close. It had been days since that night in the old house, but the weight of discovery still pulsed through Andrei like a second heartbeat. He now carried the letters in his coat, close to his chest, like a shield against the bitter Moscow winds. Natalia offered him a place to stay, just for a few nights, she said, but he had declined. Too much time had passed. Too much damage. He wasn't ready to sleep beneath a roof that reminded him of everything he'd lost. Instead, he returned to the alley near the old tram station, where the cold was familiar and the silence honest. Still, something had shifted. Andrei found himself watching the city with new eyes. Not just the gray facades and plumes of smoke rising from chimneys, but the people, families walking together, friends sharing laughter, lives that had continued without him. One evening, Natalia returned to the alley with a thermos of borscht and a small radio. I found something else, she said, sitting beside him. In Papa's drawer. He's been receiving money. Regular payments. From someone in Petrovsky district. Andrei narrowed his eyes. Why would anyone pay him now? I think it's blackmail, she said. I traced the name on the envelopes. It belongs to a man named Vadim Terashenko. The name rang faint bells. Andrei sat up straighter. Wait, Vadim? He used to work with Papa at the ministry. Some kind of financial officer. I remember him visiting when I was a boy. He always brought expensive chocolates. Natalia nodded. He's involved in something. Maybe something Papa was hiding. Why would Vadim pay him hush money? I don't know. But I think it's connected to that police report. To why Papa framed you. Andrei's hands curled into fists. He was used to the hunger, the dirt, the ache in his joints. But the thought of being used, discarded, for someone else's crime, reignited an old rage he thought he had buried beneath years of frost. I need to find him, he said quietly. I can help, Natalia said. But we have to be careful. Vadim's not just some clerk anymore. He's a wealthy man now. Private security. Cameras. If he's hiding something, he won't let it come out easily. That night, Andrei didn't sleep. He lay against the bricks, eyes open, watching the stars fade behind the clouds. His memories were louder now. Moments of laughter with his mother, the way she kissed his forehead when he had nightmares, the time she told him he could be anything he wanted, even if he didn't believe her. He thought about the look in Natalia's eyes. Regret.
Guilt.
But something stronger too, determination. The next day, he followed her to the tram stop, both of them wrapped in scarves and secrets. The city moved around them, indifferent to the storm gathering between two siblings determined to chase down a truth buried in snow and silence. By evening, they stood outside a sleek glass office building in the Petrovsky district. The name Terashenko Consulting gleamed in gold above the doors. Are you sure about this? Natalia whispered. No, Andrei said, his voice steady. But I've been sure of nothing for years. This is the closest I've come. He stepped inside. The warmth hit him like a wave, but he barely noticed it. His eyes locked on the receptionist, who looked up, surprised to see a man in a tattered coat stride in with such focus. "I need to speak to Vadim Terashenko," Andrei said calmly. "Do you have an appointment?"
No.
"But tell him Andrei Mikhailov is here. He'll remember." The woman hesitated, then picked up the phone. Minutes passed. The waiting room buzzed with quiet tension. Then a door opened. A tall man with silver hair and a sharp suit stepped out. He scanned the room until his eyes met Andrei's. He froze.
His jaw tightened.
Andrei took a step forward. "Long time, Vadim." The older man didn't smile. "What do you want?" Andrei's voice was low, but clear. "I want the truth." Vadim led them into a dimly lit conference room at the back of the building. The air inside was cool and still, scented faintly with old leather and fresh paper. The windows faced the frozen river beyond the Petrovsky embankment, but it was the silence between the three of them that held the most chill. Andrei sat across the long table from the man who had once handed him chocolates and ruffled his hair. But now Vadim's gaze was hard, calculating. He closed the door behind him and stood by the window, arms folded, as if debating how much of the past to let out. "You're supposed to be dead," Vadim said finally. Andrei raised an eyebrow. "Close. But no." Vadim's lip curled. "You shouldn't be here. If Sergei finds out—" "He's not here," Natalia cut in sharply. "And he's no longer the one controlling the story." Vadim's eyes flicked to her.
"Ah."
"The prodigal daughter. I suppose you brought him here thinking I'd just confess everything." "I brought him here because you owe him the truth," she replied. Vadim turned back to Andrei, studying his face. Then, with a quiet sigh, he moved to a cabinet and retrieved a folder. He placed it gently on the table and slid it across. "I kept this in case your father ever tried to pin it on me," he said. "Everything's in there. The loans, the forged accounts, the bribes. Your father embezzled money for years. I helped him, yes, at first. But when things got risky, I wanted out. That's when he started threatening me. Said he'd expose me unless I kept paying him." Andrei flipped open the folder. The documents inside were damning. Signed transfers, offshore accounts, even internal memos. His father's name appeared again and again. Vadim sat down at last, the confidence bleeding from his posture. He was desperate, he muttered. But he was also smart.
He knew the system.
How to erase people. How to turn the truth inside out. "You were just another casualty." Andrei's voice was low. "He made me believe I was a thief. That I was unstable. He convinced my own sister I couldn't be trusted." Vadim looked at him, without flinching. "Because you were the only person he couldn't control." That terrified him. Natalia stepped forward, fury trembling in her hands. "You let him destroy Andrei's life. You stood by and watched." "I was protecting my family," Vadim snapped.
"So was I," she said.
"And I won't stop now." Andrei gathered the folder and stood. "This ends with me," he said. "You won't have to keep paying him. I'm going to the authorities. I'm going to make sure he can't hurt anyone else." Vadim's eyes narrowed. "If you do this, it will destroy your father." "He already destroyed himself," Andrei replied. "The rest is just paper." They left the office as dusk settled over Moscow. Snowflakes drifted slowly, dancing between the high rises and neon signs. The cold no longer bit so cruelly, not because the temperature had changed, but because something inside Andrei had. Outside the building, Natalia stopped him. "Are you really ready to face him?" Andrei nodded. "He's just a man. Not a god. Not a monster. Just a man who chose power over love." They walked down the street, the folder pressed tightly against Andrei's chest like a weapon forged of truth. Somewhere behind the city lights, a reckoning waited. And for the first time in years, Andrei would meet it with open eyes. The building where Andrei had grown up looked almost untouched by time. The same rusting railings, the same cracked stone steps, and the same peeling green paint on the door. It should have felt smaller after all these years, but instead, It loomed over him like a frozen monument to all he had endured. Natalia hesitated beside him, her breath visible in the frigid air. "Are you sure you want to go in alone?" she asked. Andre gave a small nod. "He's not your demon to face." She placed a hand briefly on his arm. "Then I'll wait here." He climbed the stairs slowly, each step echoing beneath his worn boots. At the third floor, he paused outside the apartment. For a moment, he imagined walking away, leaving the folder on the doorstep and disappearing again. But he had already disappeared once, and he had suffered in silence because of it. This time he knocked. Footsteps approached. Then the door opened with a groan. Sergei Mikhailov looked older, thinner, but the fire in his eyes was unchanged. He blinked, as though seeing a ghost. "Andre," he said. Andre stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. The apartment smelled of tobacco and expensive aftershave. The furnishings were the same as he remembered: heavy leather chairs, glass cabinets with crystal tumblers, and a framed portrait of their family from a time when the smiles were still believable. "You've aged," Sergei muttered, closing the door. "So have you," Andre replied. They stood across the room from each other. No greetings. No warmth. Sergei reached for a decanter of vodka and poured 2 glasses. He slid one across the table, but Andre didn't touch it. "I saw Vadim," he said. "He gave me everything." There was no confusion in Sergei's face, just a subtle shift, like a mask cracking at the edges. "Then I assume you know why I did what I did." "I know you framed me, lied to your colleagues, lied to Natalia, watched me rot while you kept your name clean." "I did what I had to," Sergei said coldly. "You were just a boy. You would have bounced back." Andrei's voice trembled with restrained rage. "I lived in the streets for over a decade. I nearly died. I thought I was broken." "You survived," Sergei said, sipping his drink. "And you became stronger for it." Andre leaned forward, placing the folder on the table between them. "This is going to the authorities," he said. "Everything you've done will come out."
Sergei didn't flinch.
"And what will that solve?" "I'm old. They'll bury it quietly. Protect the ministry. You'll look like a bitter son with a grudge." "I'm not doing it for revenge. I'm doing it for me. For the truth. You don't get to decide who I am anymore." There was a long silence. The wind outside rattled the windows. Finally, Sergei set down his glass. "You've always been idealistic," he said. "Just like your mother." Andrei's hands tightened. "Don't speak of her. She tried to leave once, you know. Said she didn't like the man I'd become. I reminded her what she stood to lose." Andre stared at him, horrified. "Did you?" Sergei shrugged.
"She was ill."
"But I helped that along. Sometimes silence is worth more than love." It felt like the floor dropped beneath him. For years, Andre had wondered if her death had been more than just illness. Now he had confirmation. "You killed her," he whispered. Sergei didn't deny it. Andre stood, unable to contain the trembling in his limbs. "You may escape prison. You may escape the headlines. But you won't escape me." Sergei looked up, eyes suddenly weary. "You've made your choice then." "I have." Andre walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back one last time. "You no longer own this story." "I do." He left the apartment and descended the stairs without looking back. Outside, Natalia waited beneath the flickering streetlight. "Well?" she asked. Andre nodded. "It's done." But as they walked away together, he knew it was only the beginning. The next morning, Andre and Natalia sat in a quiet cafe near Chisty Prudy, the warm scent of coffee and pastries shielding them from the cold truth they now carried. The folder sat between them on the table, wrapped in twine, its weight more psychological than physical. Natalia stirred her tea absently. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Andre looked out at the snowy boulevard, where Muscovites hurried by in thick coats and wool hats, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the city's polished surface. "I thought confronting him would bring peace," he said. "But it hasn't. Not yet." "That's because it's not over," she replied softly. They knew they had to go to someone outside the system, someone who couldn't be bought or silenced. Natalia had been in quiet contact with a journalist from Novaya Pravda, a small but fiercely independent publication known for exposing corruption, often at great personal risk. Her name was Anya Belyakova. Later that afternoon, they met Anya in a secluded room above a bookstore off Tverskaya Street. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with a voice as calm as a surgeon's and a mind that cut just as deep. Andrei placed the folder on the table without a word. Anya opened it, her expression tightening as she read. "This is damning," she murmured. "Not just your father. If this goes public, several high-level officials will fall."
"Good," Andrei said.
"Let them." Anya looked at him closely. "You know what they'll do to stop this from spreading.
Threats.
Smear campaigns. Maybe worse. I've been homeless. Framed. Gaslight. I've already lived through the worst," he replied. Anya gave a curt nod. "Then we do this together. But it has to be precise. Strategic. If we release this recklessly, they'll spin it. We need to show patterns. Names. Connections. Truth with teeth." She began scanning and cataloging the evidence, speaking in clipped tones as she worked. Natalia joined her, connecting pieces from her own knowledge of the ministry. As night fell, Anya handed them burner phones. "From now on, we don't speak over regular lines. You're targets now." Andrei wasn't afraid. He had lived too long in fear. But Natalia was pale, her hands clenched in her lap. "They'll come after us, won't they?" she asked. "They will," Anya confirmed. "But they'll be late. The truth will already be out." 3 nights later, the first article dropped. It wasn't just about Sergei. It was about the whole network, years of misappropriated funds, abuse of power, and the silencing of whistleblowers. It was titled "The Shadows Behind the Kremlin Walls," and Andrei's name was in the byline. The response was immediate and brutal. Andrei received anonymous threats. Natalia's office was searched under the guise of an audit, and Anya's publication was labeled as foreign-backed propaganda by state media. But something else happened too. Messages began pouring in from people who had suffered under the same system. Former employees, families of silenced dissidents, survivors. Their stories matched his. Andrei read each one, tears in his eyes. He had expected isolation. Instead, he had found a movement. "This isn't just my story anymore," he told Natalia. She smiled faintly.
"No."
It never was. Still, as they moved to a safe house provided by Anya's contacts, they knew the eye of power had turned toward them. And it did not blink. The safe house was an unassuming flat on the edge of Moscow's industrial district. Its windows were boarded up, and the walls bore the faint scent of damp and dust. But inside, the air was electric with determination. Andrei, Natalia, and Anya spent hours planning their next moves. Maps, timelines, and lists of contacts covered the worn wooden table. "Every step we take has to be calculated," Anya insisted. "They have resources, power, people who will do anything to protect their interests." Natalia tapped her fingers nervously. "Do you think we're ready for this?" Andrei looked at both of them. "We have to be. There's no going back now." Outside, the city's pulse thrummed steadily, oblivious to the quiet revolution unfolding in one small apartment. Days passed with little rest. Emails encrypted, meetings in shadows, messages whispered through coded phrases. Then came the break. A whistleblower from within the ministry contacted Anya. His voice was trembling, but his information was clear. Documents proving that Sergei and his allies had been funneling money not just out of the ministry, but into offshore accounts connected to prominent politicians. The revelation was explosive. The trio knew that releasing this information would shake Moscow to its core. But with the increased exposure came danger. One night, as Andrei returned to the safe house, a black car idled suspiciously nearby. He caught a glimpse of figures watching him from behind tinted windows. He did not run. Instead, he walked steadily inside, locking the door behind him. "We are no longer invisible," he said. Anya nodded grimly. "They want to intimidate us." Natalia clenched her fists. "We can't let fear stop us." The following morning, Anya published the new documents, titling the article Hidden Hands, Corruption's Deep Roots. The backlash was fierce. The government denied everything, accusing the trio of fabrications and foreign interference. But the public reaction was different this time. Protests began. Small at first, but growing in size and volume, echoing through Moscow's streets and squares. Andrei watched the crowds on television, his heart both heavy and hopeful. He knew the road ahead would be treacherous. But for the first time in years, he believed change was possible. The protest crowds in Pushkin Square swelled with each passing day. Faces of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life united by a shared demand for justice and transparency. Andrei watched the scenes unfold on the news, feeling a strange mix of pride and apprehension. Inside the safe house, tension simmered beneath the surface. The pressure of constant vigilance, the fear of betrayal, and the relentless attacks by powerful enemies tested their resolve. One evening, Natalia received a mysterious message, a simple phrase, "Meet me at the Bolshoi Theater." Midnight. Anya warned against it. It could be a trap. But Andrei felt the pull of truth. "I have to go." Under the cover of darkness, he slipped away, blending into the bustling streets of Moscow. The theater's grand facade gleamed in the moonlight, a symbol of beauty and resilience amid the city's turmoil. Inside, a figure stepped out of the shadows, a former colleague of Sergei's, disillusioned and fearful. He handed Andrei a flash drive. "This contains everything: names, dates, bank transfers. Proof of the entire network." Andrei's hands trembled. The weight of responsibility settled heavily upon him. Returning to the safe house, he shared the new evidence with Natalia and Anya. Their faces reflected a mixture of hope and dread. "We're holding the key to unravel this entire web," Anya said softly. "But releasing it could bring everything crashing down, including us." They debated late into the night, weighing the risks and the potential for change. At last, Andrei made his decision. "This is not just about me, or even my family. It's about everyone who has been silenced, hidden in the shadows." With careful precision, they prepared the final report. As dawn broke over Moscow, the files went live. The city held its breath. The morning sun cast long shadows over Moscow's skyline as the final exposé spread like wildfire across the internet. News outlets from around the world picked up the story, the full extent of corruption, betrayal, and cruelty laid bare for all to see. The government scrambled to respond, issuing denials and orchestrating distractions. Yet the people's voices grew louder, echoing through streets, workplaces, and homes. Andrei, Natalia, and Anya watched the unfolding storm from the confines of their safe house, aware that their lives had forever changed. Messages poured in, some of gratitude, many of solidarity, and a few ominous warnings. Despite the fear, Andrei felt a strange calm. Years of pain, rejection, and survival had led to this moment. A moment where the truth could no longer be hidden. In the heart of the city, the protests swelled into a powerful tide demanding justice. Andrei knew the battle was far from over, but for the first time, he believed that change was within reach. As the sun rose higher, illuminating the streets of Moscow, a quiet promise settled in his heart. No matter the cost, the truth would prevail. This concludes the narrative. If you want, I can help with a full English transcript or a UK accented version for your text-to-speech project. Just let me know.